Okay, this is Mrs. A with a recap from today for those that weren't able to make class today. So, we have the section that we covered. It's in our notes. 3.5, day 1, slope-intercept form of linear equations. So what we're going to look at today is we learned in the past classes about how a linear equation results in a graph that is a line. Well, today we're going to learn about how to describe that line. We're going to learn how to describe how steep it is, whether it's rising or falling in a positive or negative direction. So let's take a look at what all that means. So it all comes around, it centers around slope, and that's the core concept. And there's a lot of words here, but what is important here is that slope is how steep a line is. So slope gives us that ability to define and describe how steep that line is. And so if I wanted to look at this section, I'd say what's important in here is slope. We tend to use the variable m to describe slope. So m is a ratio. It's comprised of two numbers. It's comprised of that change in y and change in x between 2 points in a graph. So that change in y and change in x helps us describe the slope of that line. So we call that change in y rise, and we call that change in x run. So if we look over on the right-hand side, we see that the rise, it's that change in y going from the first point up to the second point. And we're looking at what that distance is. How far did we change from that first point to that second point going up the y-axis? The run, that's over here, that one's looking at how much we've changed. What's that distance from the first point to the second point going across the x-axis? So we're looking at the x points. And then we have this section over here where we have the actual equations that would be involved. Let's hold off on talking about that right now. But what is important is, we're looking at when the line's rising, we consider that positive. And we'll look at lines that are falling as well, which we'll call negative. So, example 1. Let's try this together. It says, describe the slope of each line. Find its slope. So, the first thing we're going to do, I just think of this in 2 steps. The 2 steps are that I want to look at the rise. And the second step is I want to look at the run. And I'm going to always be doing that when I'm looking for slope. So remember, our slope, we refer to it with a variable m. We say m is equal to. And we have rise over run. That's our ratio. So let's see what the rise is. So the rise is that point going from the first point, which is over here, this point, going up the y-axis to this point. So that would give us this line over here. And if we counted the boxes, we can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So our rise is 4. Now, second step, we look at run, and we're going to look at those 2 points this way. We're going to look at it going across the x-axis. And we're going to start from -3 over here. And we're going to go over to 3 over here. And we can count the boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that gives us our run, 4 over 6. Now a ratio is a fraction, and so we can reduce it, we can simplify it. And 4 over 6, both has a common factor of 2 in the numerator and the denominator. And so that would give us m is equal to 2 over 3. And that's our answer. Now 2 over 3, you notice it's a positive number, and that would describe the slope that going from left to right is going up. It's positive. All right, let's look at another line. This line, you notice, is going down. It's decreasing as we go from left to right. So let's see how we describe that slope. So remember, it's 2 steps. First step is we define the rise. And the second step, we define the run. And that's our value of m. That gives us our slope. So rise. So again, I'm looking at the 2 points. Notice that the points are always on integer spots. There's places where the x and y coordinates are actually integers. And it just makes it easier to work with in terms of mathematics and writing out the equation or writing out the ratio. So let's start with our rise. So if I look at my first number, I'll say that's 0, 2. And I want to go down, and we're going to get all the way to here, which is to that second point, which is -1. So my rise is 1, 2, 3. Notice how I can actually calculate that by just looking at the distance. I know that this is at 0, 2, and this is at -1. I can actually say that this is 2, to get that distance between the two, I can say 2 minus -1. And that would be the same as actually counting out the boxes, which is equal to 3. Now let's try that for the run. So again, with the run, you see I'm going from the first dot to the second dot, and I'm drawing a line across, and I have to go from the first dot to the second dot going across X, going from left to right. I see I have 1 box, 2 boxes, so it's 2. Again, I could also just have calculated that from the points themselves. So that would have been, I would take my X, and I would say that's 0, and I would say minus 2. You notice how that also gets me to 0 minus 2. That gets me to -2. Okay? So my end answer would be -3 over 2. So let's stay consistent with the color. So this would have been -3 over 2. Okay, that's my slope. And notice how this time it's negative. And it's exactly like I'd be expecting, because this one is decreasing. This one's falling. This is a falling slope. It's going down. As I go from left to right, it's going down. All right, well, let's give it a try. And give it example 2 a try on your own. And then pause the video, and when you're done, come back. We'll try it together. We'll compare our answers. All right, so I want to describe the slope of the line, and I want to find the slope. So if I'm looking at this slope, it's definitely going to be increasing, because if I'm going from left to right, I notice that the slope is increasing. So I know I have an increasing slope. Now let's see if we can get an actual value for m. So remember, m is always 2 steps. M is equal to rise, and that's going to be over run. And let's see, we're going to first start with our rise, and I'm going to start from this point here, and I'm going to work my way up to that point. So my rise is going to be going from here all the way up to here. And my answer is going to be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to be 6. So that's my rise. Let's look at the run. So then we're going to go from left to right, and we have 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be rise over run, 3. That's my ratio. And so I can simplify this because there's a factor of 3 in the numerator, there's a factor of 3 in the denominator, and that gives me m is equal to 2, and that's my slope. It's exactly like I expected. It's a positive number because the slope is rising. Okay, so hope your answer looked like mine, and if not, pause the video and try it again. All right, let's try B. Again, try B on your own, and let's compare our answers when you're done. All right, so you tried B, and what I'm going to do is give this a try. So again, I'm looking at this, and this is definitely falling. So if I'm going from left to right, I notice that the graph is falling. So this is going to be a negative slope. Let's see if we can get the value for m to describe it. So I'm going to start, again, it's always that same process. Step 1 is equal to find the rise, and step 2 is going to be find the run. Okay, so let's start from the first point over here, and then we'll work our way over to the second point. So my rise is going to be going down. So I'm going to go down 2. And I am going to be going across 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 2 over 4. And 2 over 4 has a common factor of 2 in the numerator and the denominator. And so I can take that out, and I get m is equal to 1/2. Now, looking at that, I did do a mistake. I need to fix that. So this is going down. So I'm going from top to bottom on this one here. That's really important. This has to be a -2. Okay, so let's fix that. That should have been -2. And there we go. So this should have been -1/2. And I knew the second I got to my end answer, I knew something was wrong because visually I'm looking at this, and we just said that this had to be a negative slope. And so when I got a positive answer, I knew something was wrong with my slope. And so I went back and I looked at it and I fixed it. And that's it. So I hope that helps you with your homework tonight, and have a wonderful